Seton in the Nissan Motorsport turbocharged vehicle. We are taking pictures of that at the moment as I welcome Nick Mittenwaite. Nick, looking at the front row, Johnson, Miedecke, would you expect Miedecke to maybe get off the line any quicker than Johnson?
Mike, I think it's a marvellous thing that Miedecke's here at all. There was some speculation earlier in the week that Miedecke would not have the funds to run. He is here today. I think that's a fantastic effort. Dick Johnson has proved himself to be very good off the line in past events. And I also would like to mention that John Bowe is not that far behind.
He certainly isn't. Johnson and Miedecke to share the front row on the grid. John Bowe and Tony Longhurst, row 2. Glenn Seton and Colin Bond on 3. Jimmy Richards, the top BMW qualifier. And he'll be starting on the 3rd row. He was up to 2nd in the wet yesterday morning. Has been shuffled back to 7th. Mark SKAIFE, a new face in the Peter Jackson Nissan team, starting out of position number 8 today. Perkins out of 9, Scott out of 10. Peter Brock starts back in 11th spot, so I think he has the impossible ahead of him this afternoon.
Well, I don't know. The impossible has happened before. Final round of the Touring Car Championship. Dick Johnson has the title wrapped up, but by gee, there are a lot of guys out here today that would just love to shoot him down in flames in the final round. Hope you can join our telecast this afternoon. Our live coverage in Sydney and Brisbane commencing at 2 o'clock Eastern Australia time. And of course, Adelaide, Melbourne, you can see a replay at 5 o'clock this afternoon. Hope you can join us for it. Final round, the Shell Ultra Australian Touring Car Championship. Well, it comes down to this. Dick Johnson has the title wrapped up, but he wants to come out here today and rub their noses into it and prove that he is, beyond doubt, the master of the Australian touring car scene for 1988. Of course, the others all want to knock him off.
8 down and 1 to go. It's been a championship series to remember for Dick Johnson and his legion of fans. Not only has Queensland's Ace Tour wrapped up the Shell Ultra title even before the starter's gun fires this afternoon, but he's also in an unbeatable position for Sevens Park Royal Pole and NEC Car Star Awards. Yesterday's qualifying sessions offered a curious mixture of wet and dry conditions, which kept throwing the game plan of most teams out the window. Tony Longhurst had been the standout performer in unofficial practice on Friday, but yesterday's wet and miserable opener played well and truly into the hands of Rainmaster Jim Richards. Johnson clocked a 1:16.51 lap to top the morning qualifiers, just a whisker ahead of the Mobile M3 Speedster, with John Bowe, Glenn Seton and Nissan's new boy Mark SKAIFE not far behind. Narellan's rural retreat served up a dry track and much improved conditions for the afternoon session. It was still a touch slippery through the dogleg, as Barry Graham discovered when his Commodore got loose for a second or so. Times improved dramatically as the Sierras began to lap up to 5 seconds faster, blowing Richards from 2nd to 7th on the grid. Andrew Miedecke picked up the pace to log a 1:12.76 and jumped to the front row, where he'll have one final crack at Johnson.
We've really got to give it our best shot, you know. We're going to be in there trying, and I think it's possible, you know. He's a good driver, but he's beatable, so we'll give it a best shot.
11 drivers timed in under George Fury's track record during the afternoon session. 2 of the big improvers were Longhurst and Bowe, who share row 2. The Tasmanian remains 2nd in the point standings. Who knows, maybe a chance to knock off the boss as he did in the last round at Aberroo Park.
We operate as a team, and Dick is the team leader. He's the #1 driver, and at times I've been able to help him, and at times he's been able to help me. If that situation arises tomorrow, which is highly unlikely, seeing he's on the front of the grid and I'm on the 2nd row, you know, we'll just play it as we see it.
Johnson responded magnificently in the wet and dry yesterday to land yet another Park Royal pole position and seal up the NEC Car Star Series, giving him a $20,000 bonus for the season.
Well, at this point in time, you know, we have had a little trouble with the car on the lead up to this race, so I suppose we just got to be careful and make sure that we get the right setup for the event. And the way it's going today, I feel sure that the car will be well and truly on the pace tomorrow, irrespective of where we end up at the first corner. As long as it's not in the fence, I reckon we'll be half a show.
Sevens in Excess WEA Records viewer competition also reaches grand final status today. The prize being this GTI Suzuki production racer. These 10 finalists had their names in a key drawn this morning, and it was up to some of our leading touring car racers to produce a winner. 9 keys failed to open the door of the Suzuki. One did.
Oh, mate, you're not going to believe this.
I'm not.
It's
Well,
open.
we've got a winner. We've finally got a winner. So who has won the NXS WEA record Suzuki?
It's got to be a Queenslander.
Oh,
It's
no.
Simon Hanu from 9 Jesmond Road, Helensvale in Queensland.
Well, he's probably a Dick Johnson fan, and he's a lot happier guy this afternoon.
I reckon he would be. Good
Thanks,
luck to
Dick.
him. Thanks, Mike.
A happy viewer and a delighted Dick Johnson. Big winners here today at Oran Park, even before the green flag drops for the Show Ultra National Series. But stand by, we'll have the 51-lap finale for you right after this break. Park Raceway. We're preparing for round 9 of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. Let's take a look at how they line up this afternoon. Dick Johnson on pole, starting out of 2 is Andrew Miedecke. From 3, John Bowe. 4, Tony Longhurst. 5 is Glenn Seton. Starting out of position number 6 this afternoon is, of course, Colin Bond. Jim Richards is next from position number 7. 8, Mark SKAIFE. 9th is Larry Perkins. 10th is Gary Scott. 10 seconds away from the start. Can Johnson do it? Miedecke shares the front row. Lighting up the tyres, Dick Johnson, bring it off the start. And just look at Tony Longhurst being squeezed up against the fence. He makes the big run, and there's Larry Perkins into the car horse down on the inside as they streak down the front straight away, heading to Marlborough Corner. And it'll be Johnson in front. Dropping into second, Andrew Miedecke was able to pick up that, and right behind him will be Tony Longhurst. John Bowe is the next one to go through. Colin Bond, then followed by Mark SKAIFE, off to a brilliant start. Glenn Seton amongst them, and Murray Carter at the tail of the field as they come beneath Yokohama Bridge and up to the right-hander.
Brilliant start again by Dick Johnson to lead the field on the first lap here from Andrew Miedecke and Tony Longhurst. Longhurst actually got away from the line better than almost anybody else, but opted to go down. Well, he didn't have any option, I guess, but to go down the outside and really almost got squeezed out. Larry Perkins got squeezed on the inside, but apart from that, it was a trouble-free start.
Terrible start for Glenn Seton, though. Johnson at this stage opens the gap on Andrew Miedecke. There's Dick Johnson's team partner, John Bowe of Tasmania, car number 18, and sitting right behind him is Colin Bond in the Caltech CXT. There's Bondy, number 4, keeping the pressure on as they head up through Yamaha Corner to the dogleg again. And we'll see Johnson in front, just opening that gap a little. Miedecke still into second. Longhurst is third. Bowe, then Bond, then Mark SKAIFE, I believe, in car number 30. Brilliant start from him. And Jimmy Richards up very smartly indeed in the first of the BMWs. Across the strike, and it's still Johnson in front.
Well, Peter McKay, Mark SKAIFE is showing people that he's not going to sit back and take second place to anybody.
No, he's supposed to be taking a conservative run today, but he's right up there with the big guys. And it appears that Glenn Seton has struck trouble with the car with number 15.
He's pulled off. Yep, he's out of the race.
That's dreadful luck for Glenn. He hasn't finished a race this year. That's the 3rd time he's DNF'd. And it's very strange. They've had another good run through the week.
He's gone to the pits. Maybe it's something that they can get fixed and get him out again quickly. But I mean, dropping a lap or 2 at this stage of the race is just disaster.
Great disappointment also for our race cam boys, Charlie Busby and Brian Yelland, who spent a lot of time decking out the Nissan of Glenn Seton with one of our race cams for this afternoon's race, so that all their work has come to naught.
Well, poor old Nissan have had a torrid time since they debuted these 2 new Skylines, and they were looking forward to a big performance here this afternoon. And maybe Mark SKAIFE just might be able to hand it to them at his first run.
Up over the dogleg.
Doesn't mind throwing the car around a bit, doesn't he?
No, well, he's young, but at the moment you'll find that Jimmy Richards is going to make life almost unbearable for Mark SKAIFE as he sits in the draft as they come off Castrol Curve and work their way down past the start-finishing line. There's Tony Longhurst. Longhurst being gathered in by Dick Johnson's team partner, John Bowe, in car number 18. Seton in the pits, we understand, with a flat tyre. That's not so bad, but there's his race gone. Richard Luck. Here's where the real action is in the race, though. Longhurst, Bowe coming down the inside, having a little look here.
More than a little look.
I tell you what, Longhurst left a gap big enough you could have driven a semi-trailer through.
Deliberately, I think. There's something wrong with Longhurst's car, surely.
Well, he's going about it the funny way.
Well, that didn't do him a lot of good either, does it? Because Bondy's now past Longhurst, and we've just been advised that Allan Moffat has a 1-minute penalty, presumably for jumping the start.
It didn't do him much good because he was immediately behind Mark SKAIFE. He didn't get in front of him, so...
We believe about lap number 25, Moffat will come in and hand over to Greg Hansford for driving the car anyway. So John Bowe, car number 18, and Colin Bond continue their exciting struggle over the dogleg. Bondy very businesslike today, and the Caltex machine gets a little loose from him. Longhurst back on the Q1 spot through CASTROL.
With the endurance races coming up later on in the year, some of the drivers, some of the teams are taking the opportunity in this last touring car round to run an endurance setup, and one of those drivers is John Bowe. His car hasn't quite got... Oh, that's... is that Andy
Miedecke.
or
Miedecke, car number 6.
No.
One of the...
Bagnall. Yeah.
That's not a good way to promo your product.
Yeah, it's 8. Well, I must get glasses.
Gulliver's Travels. Never park it there, Andrew. Andrew, a young Kiwi who's tried to cut it here in the Touring Car Championship after running the World Series last year with Toyota.
Seton's back on the track, flat tyre fixed, but it's cost him a lap and a half.
We pick up John Bowe as he swings down towards Foster's corner. Colin Bond still trying to stay with him. Let's have a look at this, an NEC replay with Andrew Bagnall. Gets it around, Allan Moffat just gets out. Ashby goes with him as well. And electing the inside that time was...
Peter Brock in 05. Yep.
Dick Johnson in the Shell Sierra number 17 doing it very, very nicely as he heads up through Yamaha corner. You're not looking too bad out there, son.
Yeah, mate, not too bad at all. It's just one of these same old day again, I suppose, eh?
Oh, now come on, don't be like that.
No, I feel good, and this is the best the car has ever felt. It feels really, really good.
The suggestion is you're running in sprint trim and John's running in enduro trim.
Well, no, I think I'm still in enduro trim, mate, because irrespective of what people think, we don't really change a damn thing. Maybe all we do is probably tune the drivers a bit better.
You've had an incredible season so far. It'd be nice to cap it off with a grand final win, I suspect.
Well, you know, seeing all the accusations that have been going on over the entire series regarding the fuel that we've been using and everything like that, well, you know, we just got to prove everyone wrong, because they got their special batch of fuel through now, these other guys. We've been running on pump gas, and they think it's made all the difference. Well, I've got news for them.
On screen now, car number 6, Andrew Miedecke from Port Macquarie, holding down second place in his unadorned Ford Sierra. And then John Bowe. Bowe, of course, one of only 2 drivers other than Johnson to have won a round of the Touring Car Championship this year. Tony Longhurst the other. And in fact, Colin Bond on screen, one of the few drivers that's been able to take pole position away at any stage from Dick Johnson. He did that at Amaru. Miedecke, of course, had pole position for the round at Sandown, but otherwise it's been all Dick Johnson this series.
It's great to see the Laughing Cavalier doing so well, getting a little sideways. But of course the big news released in Sydney this week that joining Colin Bond for the Bathurst 1000 will be Alan Jones. Bondy's 46 years of age. First in the Bathurst 1000 back in '69. They even had the name of the race right then. First in the '75 Australian Touring Car Championship. Second in the '88 round. And of course a winner at Winton.
They might get a bit of a head start at Bathurst, I think, too. Bondy and Jones they'll have to carry a small weight penalty with Jonesy, unless he gets into the gym pretty quick smart.
Yes, he's still got that wonderful way of being able to throw a car around, and he and Bond get on so well together. Dick Johnson, of course, is your race leader on the Castrol scoreboard. Andrew Miedecke runs in second, Bowe is third, Bondy is fourth, Tony Longhurst is fifth. We'll be back in just a moment. We're working lap 13 of 50-odd circuits at Oran Park Raceway for the grand final of the Shell Ultra Series. A fellow who was in this with a big chance of winning, Glenn Seton in the 15 Peter Jackson Nissan Skyline, the GTS-R machine. Flat tyre on the opening lap into the pits. He's back out now trying to come through the field, so he's lost a lot of ground. Be hard for him to make that up, Peter Mackay.
Oh, yeah, it's possible, Mike. Apparently the flat tyre came about just off the line, and I think we picked it up in the cameras where Larry Perkins was making a lunge down the inside. The 2 cars touched. Larry broke his steering. He's out, and Glenn dumped a lap in the pits.
We take race cam. I mentioned earlier our boys have been very, very busy this weekend with Brian Yellen, Charlie Busby and our race cam team, putting the talkies and camera, of course, into Dick Johnson's car. We saw some brilliant Formula Ford action from Gary Jones earlier. And today we bring you picks from Glenn Seton's car.
It's not a shame, as far as the promoters go, that it's not raining, but it is a shame that we've got to watch Glenn in the drive, because anybody who remembers Bathurst last year will recall what a fabulous job he did driving in the rain on the mountain.
Is Tony Longhurst. He's running 5th on the racetrack when he stays on it in the Freeport Ford Sierra. Strong running team. Actually, here on Friday, Tony Longhurst was the quickest driver around Oran Park. Then, of course, it went wet yesterday morning and he went off the pace. Came back into the 2nd row and qualifying late yesterday afternoon. But a guy that a lot of folk thought might be the man to tip out Dick Johnson here today. That's not going to happen. Johnson's in front. Tony at this stage is running 5th. 1 spot ahead of Mark SKAIFE, is doing a good job in the 2nd. Peter Jackson, Nissan Skyline. Oops.
In the pits, Barry Graham. In the Brian Callahan mobile concrete pumping entry.
He had a moment yesterday when it got loose over the dog leg. He had it sideways in the dirt down there for the...
That wouldn't worry him, would it?
Didn't worry him in the least.
A former Marlborough Grand National winner on the dirt ovals is Barry. A couple of old Speedway pals together. Callahan and Graham. Anybody that follows the skids would be very familiar with those two names.
Well, he probably felt quite at home on the infield then, Peter.
Johnson goes through, car number 17.
Perhaps his times have dropped away and the crew's just trying to pinpoint the problem.
Well, they've dropped away a bit because in the background you can see Andrew Miedecke and John Bowe getting a little bit closer. I don't think it's... they're closer than they were certainly 5 or 6 laps ago. Bowe still hasn't been able to displace Miedecke, so Andy's in this with a shot.
Well, if his tyres are the harder compound tyres, they're certainly going to go the distance, and maybe John's might just go away a little. So, yeah, you're right. Andy's right in this, and it would be delightful to see him post one on the board. He's had so much bad luck this season. We keep on talking about it. But he is a good talent, and there's some good boys in the team, and it's just a pity they haven't got it all together.
That'll come. I thought he was absolutely outstanding last year at Bathurst, but here comes Bowe down on the inside. That was close. So, gentlemen, John starting to get on the pace now. You can see Johnson coming back to them. They're starting to put a little pressure on Andrew Miedecke, and he's doing just that as they head down Dunlop Straight.
Well, it's compulsory for a shell car to win, and John, seeing Dick in trouble, has probably turned up the wig. Not literally, but he's certainly going for it.
Well, John will continue just to poke the nose of the car down in the critical turns. I believe that one coming under Yokohama is certainly one of the turns, and at the bottom of the dog leg as well. So there's Bowe. He's been stalking Miedecke now since the race started.
That gap is closing visibly now.
Miedecke's about to get into a Shell Sierra sandwich.
See, the script really says if Dick has troubles, John Bowe wins.
Exactly.
Now, the man that's upsetting that at the moment is Andrew Miedecke from Port Macquarie.
Oh, well, he didn't read the script properly, did he?
Well, I must say it would really be a pity to see Dick Johnson lose this grand final this afternoon because of some minor problem. He deserves to win it. He's had the best, most professional team in Australia all season.
It was great at the press conference yesterday to see the drivers actually applaud Dick's efforts this year. As well they might. They really have put together a superb job, haven't they?
Yes, they all go to bed on Saturday nights praying that he comes down with a rash or something.
Trip over that tent rope.
Well, he really has been sensational this year, and of course John Bowe, I believe, has been the perfect rear gunner for him. When Dick's had problems, John's been really there to win. But it is really starting to close up, and it's getting awfully tied up in the front of the field as Johnson, with some problem, we believe a boost problem, still leads Andrew Miedecke in the MOTORCRAFT Castrol white car, and the second of the Shell Sierras with John Bowe at the wheel runs in third. So a fascinating scrap, this one. They've vaulted well and truly away from the rest of the pack. And the man here is Miedecke. Johnson, Miedecke, Bowe, Bond, Longhurst. Then Allan Moffat, but he's got a penalty. Whoa,
help. Here comes Bowe again for this big sandwich move. Andrew should have been smart enough to have covered that a couple of laps ago when he did that about 3 or 4 laps.
I thought John Bowe was a gentleman.
There's nothing wrong with that.
He was about to introduce him to the concrete wall.
We'll see if Andrew took that like a sportsman or if he comes charging back down on the inside to put the pressure on Bowe again.
Big lock up there. I recall a few years back we saw these two drivers in open wheeler cars driving just as close as they are today. So I suggest they have a great deal of respect for each other's ability.
Yeah, you're right. They had some great racing in Formula cars.
Yeah.
John going on to a couple of Australian Drivers' Championships. Andy, a big name in Formula 2. That was the top of whose head?
That was Jill Johnson's. She's gone for the timing, keeping lap charts. And there's John Bowe. He's the man with a mission at the moment to try and either sit in behind the boss or take over the lead and get away from the claws of Andrew Miedecke. They go past Bagnall. Yes, sirree, plenty of action coming. We'll wait for John Bowe. Can he pass the team boss and take over the lead yet again? They work the start-finishing straight. Heading down to Marlborough Corner yet again, and John Bowe this time on the outside will pass Dick Johnson. Bowe goes through to take over the lead in the grand final and locks up a break on the way through. That would give Dick Johnson some heartache. Heading beneath Yokohama Bridge. So we now have a new leader. But Andrew Miedecke is there all the time, just keeping the pressure on. Coming up towards Yokohama Bridge again, there's Johnson falling back into the clutches of one Andrew Miedecke. Miedecke has got past Andrew Bagnall as well, put a lap on young Andrew, who had a spin earlier. And Johnson at this stage is desperately trying to fend off Andrew Miedecke as Miedecke goes charging back after John Bowe. There's Johnson, 17. Murray Carter having his first run, staying out of everyone's way. At the same time, Miedecke's trying to clear the traffic and get an even shot at Johnson, and here they come. Bowe goes through, Johnson zips down the inside of the BMW. And there's Miedecke now, zeroes in on Dick Johnson. They work the start-finishing straight. Miedecke out of the slipstream, and away he goes. So Andrew Miedecke now moves to second in the race. Bowe leads it, Miedecke second, and Dick Johnson is now back to third. Now, whether or not Colin Bond and Tony Longhurst can come up and also get in on the act, time will tell. They work the short straight coming up to Yokohama Bridge. And I think we have one heck of a motor race on our hands here at Oran Park this afternoon. As Miedecke goes back after John Bowe. Bowe is your race leader. Miedecke is second. Johnson third. Bond is fourth. Longhurst fifth. And this race is far from over. Sierra, number 9, to give Greg Hansford a run in the second half of this race. It'll be Greg's first run in competition in the former Eggenberger Texaco car. And obviously Greg will run the endurance races with Allan, including Bathurst. So Greg Hansford now underway, car number 9. Good to see Greg back in a competitive car. Moffat had taken the number 9 car up to 5th on the track, but we believe he'd been pinged a minute anyway for an indiscretion earlier in the race.
New to that car, but not new to Ford Sierras. Hansford, of course, was the number 2 to Dick Johnson last year. And he's really looking forward to getting back into harness. Actually, he's watching all these bike riders going so well overseas, and Greg, of course, a runner-up in the World 500cc Championship in 1980, I think, and he's really itching at the bit.
Well, it just goes back to what we were talking about with George a moment ago. We see so many of the familiar faces around touring car racing. Doesn't seem to be that opportunity for too many of the youngsters to come on. That's why I guess we have to admire managers like Fred Gibson, who encourage the youngsters, Glenn Seton and now Mark SKAIFE.
And not only that, but Greg is running for the same reason as Mark is running, to to run himself in for the long distance races, for the endurance races, so that he's competitive, you know, in the car.
George, do you know who will be driving with you at Bathurst and in the
Mark will be driving with me.
So you're obviously very keen to see him get out there and get a few laps up.
Very much indeed. I've been following his progress very much, and
well, there's Greg Hansford. He's underway. We talked a while ago to Queensland's top banana, Dick Johnson, who was leading this race. Everything was running so smoothly for him, and it seemed right somehow that the boss should win the touring car finale. Doesn't look like that's going to happen. What are the problems, Dick?
Oh, mate, tell you what, it's missing and carrying on like an old sealer.
Truly?
Oh, it's got no boost, and it's been about 1.3 bar of boost, which is...
Same as everybody else, Dick.
It was...
That's what the Skylines normally run, Dick.
Oh, we just can't help bad luck, but we run a little bit more than that. And it wouldn't be so bad, except it's missing and carrying on as well.
Dick, we've got George Fury up in the commentary box with us, and he's giving you a 6 for turning up today, but you dip out on the rest of the points.
Oh, well, mate, you've got to give me mate a bit of a run, haven't I?
You sure have, but that'll be the last time I'll let Bowe tune your car for you.
Yeah, you're not wrong. But I can't understand it. Like, these are the problems we've been having all week. It's like 1,200 revs short down the straight, which is something like, I suppose, 30 mile an hour or so, which is pretty substantial on a short straight such as Oran Park. Better than the poke in the eye with a burnt stick, mate.
I'm glad a Queenslander said that. We'll come back and talk to you later.
Right, pal.
Bye.
Bye.
That's Peter Brooks. Brock. Position 8 on the racetrack. Young Pete, Astro Boy, with that crazy helmet.
Gee, a year's an eternity in touring car racing, Mike. BMW M3 won this race last year. 2 M3s on the front row of the grid.
I guess, George, if someone came across you and said, we'll give you a pile of money, but would to leave Nissan and go run a BMW for next season, the decision wouldn't be hard, would it?
Yeah, no, it would be fairly hard, actually, but actually Glenn is circulating now at a time that's nearly a second quicker than we could run here last year in the old car.
Let's take a look at a replay of an incident here, courtesy of NEC. Wow.
Oh.
2 getting involved in this. Oh, it looks like Kid Crompton and Andrew Miedecke.
Yeah, it was a bit hard to work out.
Was really. We might have a look at that again shortly. In the meantime, with all that happening, Dick Johnson has now gone back into second place behind John Bowe. So things have a habit of evening themselves up during a race. George, we might have a look at Mark SKAIFE just for a second, because that, of course, will have moved him up through the pace. We're with Glenn Seton at the moment in car number 15.
Mark's a very smooth driver, and I think for that reason he'll go a long way. He's very easy on the car.
Have you actually spent any time driving the new model GTS-R around here at Oran Park?
No,
haven't had a lap yet.
Haven't had another drive yet. But it wouldn't be that different to the old car last year as far as gear ratio is concerned and everything else.
You had some problems last year with handling, according to Glenn, and you've driven the car, not here at Oran Park, but you've had a run in the car. Is the new car a little better in the handling department?
Well, it's going to be. Last year's car ended up pretty good and pretty fast, but it was a difficult car to drive. Whereas this year, we're having a few problems setting this car up to optimum performance, but when it gets there, it's going to be a hell of a lot easier on the drivers, and I think that's going to count in the long races. And I think the Skyline, even though it'll be underpowered to the Sierras and the Commodores, it'll do very well in the long distance races because of that fact.
Nelson PK here. Neil Crompton, car number 7. We saw his car involved in that incident with Andrew Miedecke. We might have a look at that again on our NEC replay at normal speed, just see exactly what happened with Andrew Miedecke. Here's Miedecke coming down the inside and loses it. Brushes Crompton on the way through, so that was hardly the fault of young Neil's on wheels.
And on screen car number 1, Jim Richards, involved in a battle here for 5th and 6th place with car 30. That's Mark SKAIFE. They're both giving the go-by to a couple of tail-enders there, including Murray Carter. And it's really been a tremendous performance by young Mark SKAIFE to be in 5th position. Not to mention Glenn Seton as well, after having to pit to change a tyre, now back up and running in 8th or 9th spot. So the Nissans have put up a pretty good performance here today.
They sure have. Jimmy Richards, car number 1. National champion, of course, last year. And won the grand final here last year in a stirring drive.
A stirring finish with Glenn Seton, wasn't it, if I remember rightly?
Yeah, they had a bit of door-to-door contact. I think Freddie Gibson has found himself a winner in young Mark SKAIFE there. I mean, he's handled the car well. He hasn't really done anything stupid. He made an electrifying start, got off the line like he was fired out of a cannon.
Well, he wanted to follow Glenn into the first turn, and he did just that. I'm not sure he may have even led Glenn into that first turn.
I'm sure, I think I called him, in fact, leading.
Yeah, he did.
If he'd followed Glenn, they'd been in the pits at the same time of the flat tyre. But now it's great to see some new faces, some young faces, adding to the depth of touring car racing.
The concern for Mark, I suppose, today is that he's running an experimental tyre. The Nissan team hasn't tested the durability of this particular compound. They don't really know whether it's going to last 50-odd laps around Oran Park, but so far so good. And the next few laps will be interesting because he has right behind him Jim Richards. And if you ever want to watch a guy mastering a craft, we should watch Jim, because he uses every centimetre of track. He flows that car. He hasn't got a lot of horsepower, and he just flows it through the corners. Very, very smooth. Look at that.
And just coming into sight there behind Jim Richards, Gary Scott in the Mitsubishi Starion, car 16. Now that's another big effort to be up and running in 7th spot with 10 laps to go.
That is, this car really hasn't had a lot of new goodies over the last couple of years. It's essentially in the trim it was in way back. In fact, I think it's worse off because it's running a standard intercooler this year. And yet George Shepard and his crew at Rally Art and Gary Scott in the driver's seat are doing a pretty good job. It handles very, very well, as you'd expect, because Gary's his work is a suspension engineer. He has a Peters outlet up on the Sunshine Coast, and I think his work is reflected in this motor car. We'll give them a rap. They've been doing a good job all season. We haven't seen too much of them.
There's Gary Scott continuing to chase Jimmy Richards. He's still after Mark SKAIFE. Let's check them out on the CASTROL scoreboard. John Bowe is still the race leader from Dickie Johnson. Miedecke has consolidated 3rd. Colin Bond is 4th. And Mark SKAIFE is 5th. We're on lap 44 of the grand final of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship from Sydney's Oran Park Raceway. John Bowe is your race leader, and the Shell Ultra High Sierra, car number 18, took over the lead after Dick Johnson encountered boost problems. And John has driven a marvellous race up front, being able to run away from the rest of the pack, and he's doing that with ease at the moment. I mentioned earlier Mark SKAIFE was doing so well. Here's Mark around sideways, right in front of the pack, down through the grass. He needs some tyres with grip.
It's dropped him back to 7th place, Mark SKAIFE. He was up running 5th.
If you want them to go well, ask Raymond to give them a good rap. They run off, hit walls, bounce everywhere.
Well, you better not say too much more about John Bowe then, because he's got only 7 laps to go to take the checkered flag here.
There's only about 2.5 seconds between John Bowe, the leader, and Dick Johnson in 2nd. So Dick hasn't fallen away too much, has he? The engine problems he has hasn't slowed him down, because Andy Miedecke hasn't come back up to him.
Well, there's John Bowe. And I tell you what, I have no idea of the script here. But I just wonder whether or not Bowe is just going to ease it up a bit and let Dick have the grand final. Don't all knock me over to think about that. But at the moment, I noticed that Bowe had a very, very comfortable lead. He's just eased out a little bit. And here's Dick with problems. but still able to stay reasonably close to John Bowe.
Was that Miedecke in the background? Because if it is, I think John may not be able to be the gentleman and allow the boss through. I think he'll just have to keep the pedal to the metal.
Be terrible to pull over and let the boss through and have him blown off by Miedecke in the process. Coming down to what promises to be quite an interesting last few laps of the Shell Series final. We have one.
It's the Lusties.
The Lusty brothers are in the pits with problems. And the boys are pushing that to try and get it underway again, all behind the pit wall. There's John Bowe. Car number 18, Dick Johnson, in the 17 car. Getting closer all the time. And they're lurking in third as Andrew Miedecke, looking at a little action for second place as he comes storming back through the pack after a lose. He's done well in the MOTORCRAFT CASTROL entry.
He may just catch Dick, I think. I think he's probably got enough there to do it. So second won't be a bad result.
It just seems strange how Bowe had such a big gap and then all of a sudden Dick caught him, and at the same time Miedecke has closed in for the kill as well. Almost like NASCAR racing. Couldn't be that close.
I'm sure this result for Miedecke, if he finishes where he is right now, will give the rest of the team great heart for the forthcoming Endurance Championship.
More importantly, it might give them a sponsor, because as we look at the car, it's not exactly, doesn't exactly
There's
have
a
a
lot
whole
of room.
multitude of multinational signs on it, does it?
They come across the line. We have 4 laps remaining in the grand final of the Shell Ultra Touring Car Championship from Oran Park. Andrew Miedecke, we're watching closing at this moment on Dick Johnson, who runs second to his teammate John Bowe. Or blocking up a break. Great shot, that. Andrew gritting his teeth at them.
Yes, he looked rather pained about all that.
Well, he locked up one before there and was just able to get off the concrete wall. Now, if they are in fact setting up for a 1-2 finish, a parade finish, Miedecke is the only man who can blow that out the window if he can separate Johnson and Bowe. He's still trying.
The trouble with setting up for a 1-2, if you, unless you do it all very nicely, you could end up organising yourself into a 2-3, which isn't all that desirable.
Well, Andrew battles on in number 6. In the meantime, Dick Johnson, we take race cam from. And there's the gap from John Bowe back to Dick as they go over the dog leg and down the roller coaster to Castrol corner. Phil Ward going past, about to have a lap put on him.
Tell you what, Andy's actually dropping back, so I think that 1-2 is probably pretty safe.
Could be. Couple of laps still to run. As Johnson goes inside Phil Ward, the Merc, 190. Phil doing a good job in that car. Picked up the best turned out car award here today from the Expo Award.
The Festo-backed Mercedes-Benz. There's 2 of them in the country. We're only seeing one going around at the moment. There's still one of the most exuberant drivers we'll find anywhere.
Here comes Handy Andy down on the inside of Murray Carter on the Netcom Sierra. Murray's got his second win now, 3 from home.
He's getting the hang of it.
He certainly is. I tell you, it must be easier to drive in that Ford Custom line he used to knock around on Phillip Island.
You've got a memory.
Where?
There's Murray going through in the 14 car. Great to see Netcom staying with the veteran charger. Here's our race leader, John Bowe, down the hill.
This looks suspiciously like a 1-2.
About 2 laps to go. And as they go across the strike, it's Bowe, Dick Johnson back on the tail. And I think John claims there's no orders, no team tactics. If the boss is in front, he wins the race. I run second. If I'm in front, no one's worked the script out for that one yet. I have a feeling I'd almost be prepared to put that Dick's going to win this. Why not? Dick Johnson just floats back underneath John Bowe. So the boss is in control again.
Well, that's the way it should be, I suppose. Dick's certainly done more winning than anybody this season. It is his team.
They come up over the top of the Yokohama Bridge.
A new helmet that glows like a stoplight, and a win here today at Oran Park. It's been a good week.
It's been a good year.
Coming down through Yamaha corner, working his way up to the flip-flop. Johnson in 17, posts it over there, gives a little courtesy breathe. And down into the bottom corner. 9 rounds completed of the Shell Ultra Championship Series. The last lap board is coming out. How does it feel, Dick Johnson?
Yeah, mate, I tell you, Bowe must be having a few problems too, because this whole thing wouldn't pull the skin off a rice pudding. Have a listen to it, will you? I'm glad it's not 500 Ks.
Well, how does it feel, mate? You're half a lap or so away from home and another national title.
Well, don't put the curse of the Jack Black jelly bean on me, will you?
I wouldn't. I've had a terrible record here today.
I've spoken to you guys before, you know. But the car was... I've flogged the hell out of the gearbox. I've flogged the hell out of the brakes. And everything's just working super. Other than the engine, she's a bit of a melon.
Up over the Yokohama Bridge.
Yeah.
She can almost coast home from there, Dick.
Oh, I've heard that before.
I'm not trying to talk you into anything.
Ah, thanks, pal.
Dick, have you got a holiday on the cards after the Touring Car Championship?
Yeah, we've still got a fair bit of work to do. We know what we want to do and exactly how we're going to do it, so it's all pretty well playing out, and Neil and the boys have got themselves in order.
Last corner coming up now. Spectators standing, acknowledging the 88s. Australian Touring Car Champion. The hand comes out the window. The checkered flag is out. How does it feel, Dick Johnson?
Mate, fantastic. Thanks to the guys, they are excellent. They've done a great job. And so I suppose Shell have been just fantastic to us the whole year, mate. And so have Palmer's. It's been just a great year for us so far.
Is it all sunk in now that you've won the final and that's the best way you can win them?
Mate, you're not wrong. And I tell you what, I'm just so elated because I know how happy the boys will be. And they're the ones that do the hard work.
Thanks, pal. Congratulations. We'll see you in victory lane.
Thank you very much.
Dickie Johnson, winner this afternoon of the Australian Touring Car Championship Grand Final from Sydney's Oran Park, a Sierra 123. Let's check them out on the CASTROL scoreboard. Tricky Dick, Queensland's #1, is champ. John Bowe is second. Andrew Miedecke places third. Colin Bond is fourth. And Jimmy Richards finishes fifth. Australian Touring Car Championship Series for 1988 is over. I think the best man for the year won. I think Peter McKay, you would agree with that?
Yes, so it's a fitting finale, wasn't it? 1-2 to the Johnson team. It's about how it's been all year, and it would have been a tragedy if they didn't repeat it here at Oran Park.
The promoters should be delighted with an absolute capacity crowd here today at Oran Park Raceway. And of course our live telecast into the Sydney area, making no difference whatsoever to the great turnout of fans in perfect weather conditions. So, as we can see at this stage with the cars that have returned to the pit area, Dick Johnson will pick up maximum points here again this afternoon, so he's locked up the championship. There was no doubt whatsoever that he was going to win the title.
Might be different at Bathurst though, Mike. Those Group A Commodores look pretty good up there, I think.
Well, the Mount Panorama course is, of course, has been a circuit that has been kind to Holden over quite a number of years. It's a circuit that probably suits the Holden, and hopefully Tom Walkingshaw and Larry Perkins believe it will suit their new Group A Commodore by the time they visit the mountain. But for the Championship Series for 1988, our congratulations go to Dick Johnson and the Shell Ultra team. Congratulations also to his co-driver, John Bowe, who I thought drove splendidly this year. And for today's grand final, Andrew Miedecke. We hope you've enjoyed our coverage of the Australian Touring Car Championship Series on the Australian Television Network. We look forward to your company in a fortnight's time at Amaroo Park Raceway. Mike Raymond on behalf of all the team, wishing you well and inviting you to join us in a fortnight.